Hey,
Hello, hello, hello.
how are you?
Fantastic, fantastic. You doing all right?
Sleep deprived, but I'm doing okay.
All right, all right.
Puppies gave me a run for my money, so I'm here in all my glory today.
Well,
but
it's good to be alive, right? And have
can you say that again for the
a mind to move on and to move forward. So,
definitely? And I don't want it to seem like I'm complaining because I feel very, very fortunate to even be able to whelp the puppies. If I could tell you that the love and attention and the cuddling and all of the fun, kind of, it makes the sleep depravity. And can I tell you today, I just poop factories. Can I just tell you that that's the part
wow.
about the part about breeding that they don't tell you. They show you all the cute stuff, and I love the cute stuff, but there's some behind the scenes stuff that they don't tell you about when you're breeding. So,
Okay.
yeah, the hugs and the cuddles kind of keep me going.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
I'll be swimming in the. I can tell you, I'll be swimming in the poop.
The
Swimming in
poop
the poop.
factory.
Yes, poop factory. But I guess we can go ahead and do our little intro. I'm Jay, the Healchemist with HEALn Help, and the website is healn.help. And this is my cohort. I'm gonna pass the mic.
Yes, I'm Antoine, just Antoine, and I'm with Drulix, and we're excited to be here. We're creating an ecosystem, a society within a society that really helps the people, right? A philanthropist type of outreach, and we're excited to be able to do that and partner with HEALn Help and bring this podcast to you.
Yes.
So today's topic, we're talking about single motherhood refined,
Yeah.
right? The weight of the fatherless home. And so your camera just went off. Okay, there you're back on. Hallelujah.
Oh no.
You're frozen though. I guess you'll come back and we'll just keep it rolling. It's definitely a privilege and an honor to be in this space where we can share information with you all and let you know that you're not in this alone, and you don't have to do life by yourself. There are resources out here that can assist you in making good decisions based on the hand that you're dealt, right? And so we are excited to be able to, to be able to share some information with you. And we've been talking about fatherless homes and its effects on the family ties, and this is episode 6. So we're excited. So if you hadn't caught up with us and you haven't saw the previous episodes, go ahead and check us out on our various platforms. If you have any questions or comments, to um, feel free to share those comments with us. It looks like your camera is still frozen.
Frozen. Can you hear me?
I can hear you though.
And it always freezes on one of those crazy pictures. Like it don't never catch you with a big bright smile on your face.
Right, right.
It always catches you doing something else. So I'm gonna turn my camera off and maybe turn it back on and see if that will fix it.
See if that works.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see what we get. If not, I'll just stay off camera. I know that's not entertaining because people want to see my. Yeah, it took a different still. It looks like, but I guess for some reason, just rejoining the stream. I don't know. But
yeah, I'm not sure either.
I don't want people to have to look at my gorgeous face in that particular pose. So we'll give it a few minutes and see what happens, or what do you think?
Yeah, we can continue on like this, and then if
And I
we
wonder if
try it
I
again.
can put my picture in, because maybe, okay, it's saying edit avatar. So let me see what it'll let me do. Because at least you can have a picture, you know what I mean? And you're not just looking at a circle throbbing in your face.
Yeah, so I was just letting them know as you're listening to the podcast, if you hadn't saw the first five episodes, go back and revisit it. And if you like any of them, hopefully you like all of them. But feel free to share, like, subscribe, and ask questions. We have a hot question that we got in just the other day, and we're going to be sharing, talking about that topic. It was a very hot topic, very detailed.
Very, very detailed.
And yeah, I'm looking forward to having that conversation. I
Same.
did I did write some comments on it. I guess you didn't see that.
I did not see that. But I will take a look this evening. I figured we could do our weekly sync, set up how we want to approach it, and take it from there. So stay tuned next week for that episode. We are actually going to dive into someone's actual experience. It ties into family ties and the fatherless home, but it's from the perspective of the adult child who has reconnected with their parent. And I promise it's not me, it is someone else. And there seems to be some challenge with the expectation from the previous absent parent that the adult child, uh, I won't say she doesn't like it, but she feels pressured and almost guilted into doing certain things. So I don't want to give too much away.
Right.
But yes, I don't even know what we're going to call it yet. We'll figure that out as we sync throughout the week.
Yes, for sure. So yeah, it's a good thing, and I love to have the real examples and talk about real stuff that's going on, because it helps our audience to I identify with what we're talking about even the more. So yes, that's a beautiful thing. So the weight of fatherless homes, when we're talking about single mothers and how they have to deal with and manage um, just however that situation came about, right? There could be various reasons why the father is not in the home. And so, nevertheless, well, I guess some things have more effects than others, like if they're incarcerated for something despicable, right, that they did.
Yeah.
Like I heard today um, about an issue with a husband committing murder,
Ooh.
and now, yeah, it's the family is destroyed, right? It's like,
Right.
hey, I've been married to this man. He's the father of my children, and he just did something that I didn't think was possible. What do I do now, and how do I handle that?
Yeah. And
Right?
I want to chime in a little bit on this. I was watching Pop the Balloon. We listen and we don't judge. Um, but yeah, one of my little rubbish days where I was just watching some stuff. And I ended up watching quite a few episodes, and I find it very entertaining. I'll hold my tongue on I'll hold my tongue on judgment, right? And when I say that, I mean it is. I know that there are people that are actually going on the show in hopes of connecting with somebody, but I just don't know how much dialogue. I just don't know how much interaction goes into um, what happens once you feel like you've got a match or not got a match or whatever. But what brought me to the conversation was I noticed that a lot of the questions that the men were asking were, how many children do you have and how many baby daddies? And the tone across a couple of episodes, not everybody, just kind of seemed to be a bit accusatory and judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
It and it kind of made me tilt my head to the side because I'm like, women don't have children alone. So for women who have more than one child, there's this one guy, he said this particularly. He said, how many children do you have, to one of the women? And she said, I have two. And he said, well, you didn't think after the first one you would want to marry the second one? And I was like, I don't know how much you know about her. He just automatically assumed that her situation was such that she had a kid, didn't work out, and then she just went on to the next guy and had a kid. There was no background, there was
Right.
no conversation, there was no real life circumstance considered. And I find that we do that a lot. So the minute we come across a woman, and let me just preface it by saying there are women who are not taking care of themselves with regard to who they allow to fill their womb, who they sometimes decide or not decide to have children with. Part of that is, I'm sure, connected to the fatherless home situation and how it affected the girls and what they are looking for in relationship growing up. So there's likely some pathology. There's likely some issues with regard to the relationship between that female child and her dad. But there are, like, if you were to ask me, and I'll use myself as an example, if you were to ask me these words specifically, how many children do you have and how many baby daddies, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say 4 children, 2 baby daddies. And there would be an assumption made. The length of time that I've been on earth would not be considered. Whether or not I've been married would not be considered. But the piece that I'm trying to pull out of this is that when we, and I'm not taking anything away from being married and having children, and unfortunately that not working in the way that all parties involved intended, right? But marriage is not the end all be all, and marriage is not the thing that's going to keep you in relationship. It's learning how to navigate the relationship. So if he were to ask me that question, my answer would have been 4 children, 2 baby daddies. And if he had said, well, you didn't think that you wanted to, get married after the first 2, or, there's no, you really don't have any context with regard to how that situation happened, what length of time there is in between relationships. You really just don't know. The assumption is that if you have more than one father for more than one child, then there's something wrong with you as a woman.
Right.
Not
And
not understanding that I got married, we had 2 children, that marriage didn't work out, and I lived my life for quite a long time as a single mom with 2 children, and met someone else years and years and years later. We married. That gentleman did not have children. I did, and he wanted children of his own. So we agreed to have a child. God saw differently, gave me twins, so I have 4.
yeah.
Right? And that marriage did not last. But it doesn't mean that I was not careful, does not mean that I was haphazard. The implication behind it is what I was struggling with.
So, I want to chime in here, um, because you think about the male in the equation, and I would ask him, "Hey, so how many women have you dated and got pregnant, or just dated and have intercourse with?" Because if you had intercourse, then there was a possibility to, especially unprotected, um, to have children. So just because it didn't happen, don't mean that you can sit in a seat of judgment and point your finger at, woe is this woman because she has uh, more than one baby daddy.
Right. And what made me bring that up first is because I think um, societal expectations and stigma. So there's judgment and blame. Oftentimes, society blames single mothers for the family breakdown. And in some instances, it appears that the father or the absent father is excused from that stigma and that judgment, unless, of course, he's a gentleman who has, 4 baby mamas and four children, and then that stigma can also be turned the other way on him. But a lot of times there's this pressure, um, and or we've got this conversation going in the community about, quote unquote, this high value man. So there's this perception that if you have more than XYZ amount of children, or if you are a certain age, that somehow there's no value in you as a woman, for someone who I guess that group of people would call high value. To me, high value doesn't mean money. And I think a lot of times we're throwing that um, description onto high value. But if you think about it, there's a lot of stuff that you can pay a lot of money for. It doesn't mean that it functions top tier, doesn't mean that it's top quality. It just means that it costs a lot. And I say that to try to equate, if you're saying that you're a top tier man or a high value man because of how much money you make, that doesn't, to me, mean that you are high value. It means that you have a lot of money. To me, high value is more substance. What kind of man are you? What kind of father are you? Even if you have more than one child from more than one woman, if you are the man that has a relationship with his children, seeks to have a relationship with his children, does as much as he can, not just in the way of provision, because provision is more than money, but your mindset is such that no matter what happened between mom and I'm going to have a part, I'm going to have a say, and I am definitely going to impact my children so that they can function in this world as best I can. To me, that's a high value man.
Yes, yes, yes. And I will also add, an emotional healthy man
Yeah,
is high value.
absolutely.
And from the woman's perspective, I mean, from the man's perspective, I have to have a high emotional woman, right?
Right.
Emotionally intelligent woman, just because where I am,
Yes, absolutely.
and in the path that I'm on. So, um, and I guess at this stage in my life, I don't mind helping and assisting. Not, I don't even like using the word help. I don't mind assisting,
Supporting, yeah, lending
right?
yourself.
Assisting people in getting there, but they have to want it. If they show that this is what they want, and it's not a temporary thing, it has to be an ongoing thing because it's a process, right? And
Right.
so you got to be willing to.
Well, I think one of the biggest things you said was assist, right? So just think of the word assist. If you are doing all the work, then you're not assisting. If you're on the basketball court, right, and y'all going up to the hoop and you get an assist, well, both of y'all are carrying that ball to the hoop to make that score. So I totally understand what you're saying. You're saying, hey, I'm not saying that you got to come perfect. I'm not saying that you have to have everything in order. I'm saying that you have to be on that path and you have to be diligent about it and you have to be serious about it. And then I can lend myself and my resources, not just financially, because your time is resources, your
Yes.
energy is resources,
Yes.
your mind is resources.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. For
So
sure.
if I'm going to invest my blood, sweat, and tears, is what I think I'm hearing you say is we got to be locking arms. You know what I mean? We have to be on that court together. We both going to the hoop together, and we
Yeah.
supporting each other. We Kobe and Shaq right now.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
For sure.
I totally get that. And you know,
You should say Jordan and Pippen, but I'll let Kobe and Shaq
why are
ride.
you trying to tell everybody how old we are? I did that because I was trying to keep it a little young. But I really hope that we can really change the narrative of what a high value man is and what a high value woman is, what provision is, because there are some women who feel like a provider is just somebody who is virtually an ATM machine, and that's not just provision. Provision is support, provision is intimacy, provision is partnership, provision is safety. So there's so much that men can bring to the table other than a paycheck and be and truly add value, right? Money definitely adds value, but it is one dimensional. It only adds value in one way. And if money were the thing that we're going to keep relationships together and make people act a certain way or bring happiness, then honey, rich people would never get divorced and their children would be well adjusted and it would be awesome. And that's just not that's just
Not the
not
case.
right.
You know, it's important. There's just so many fallacies that we operate in this society under, and we just have to come to the point of saying, you know what? Let's just get down to business. We need to be healthy as individuals because sometimes we want somebody to give us what we should be giving ourselves, right?
We want someone else to come to the rescue. That's why Heal and Help is here. We're going to teach you how to be the superhero in your own life because nobody
Yes,
can save you.
yes,
No one
yes.
saves you but yourself. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path. So you absolutely have to show up for yourself.
Have to show up.
So
Yes, go ahead.
I was gonna say I wanted to throw that out on the table, right? Because if we're talking, we don't only want to talk about the effects of the fatherless home on the single mother in a way that doesn't highlight part of why we may be experiencing high levels of single parent homes and fatherless homes and the disconnect of fathers to their children. We need to begin to think differently. I feel like Jay-Z said it first: no one wins when the family feuds. We need to not make each other the enemy. We need to dead this war between this man against woman war and the things that we say back and forth to each other, because our children are watching that. And what we began to believe, or what we've now started to believe, because back in the day, everything wasn't peaches and cream, but men weren't walking around talking about women the way they do, and women weren't walking around talking about men the way they do in the dialogue, right?
Right.
I might be mad at you as my ex, you specifically. I got specific things about you that I'm
Right.
mad. But there's this generalization now amongst men and women about one another. And it is keeping us divided. It's making it difficult for us to connect. It's making it difficult for us to be vulnerable. It's making it difficult for us to have intimacy outside of sex. part
Right.
of that, I believe, contributes to, I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. I believe contributes to, hold on. Puppies behind the door. Puppies behind the door. Puppies behind the door. Puppies behind the door.
Yeah. So, yeah, that stigmatism that society and portrays and okays. I mean, we see it in social media. We see a lot of stuff on TV, and it kind of helps shape that culture and helps foster that false tense of what things the ideal situation should be. And I think that our media needs to change. You know, our mode of communication needs to change, and we need to have more healthy role models uh, in our view, right? So we can understand like this is how things should be, and understanding dysfunction. And so I hats off to those shows and movies that deal with real life issues and they give real life solutions. And so at Adrulix, that's our intent in our arts and entertainment, our celebration sector, is to make sure that we're bringing high value to the industry and being able to deal with real life situations and in a healthy way.
That's awesome. That really is awesome. So I didn't want to go too far down that road, but the reason I brought it up is so that we can kind of get an idea of some of what's at the core of the situations that we find ourselves in. You know, I saw something the other day somebody sent me, and it was a statistic, and I will say I've not done any, when I say any, I've not done one stitch of research. I've not fact checked this yet. But she sent me an article that said something about Black men in particular dying alone. And I was like, what? What are we talking about now? What are we talking about here? Young people deciding not to have children. People not, I talk to a lot of 20 somethings, and they are struggling in a way that I don't remember 20 something struggling. Like that's your dating era, right? That's when you're in your bag right there. When you young, you virile, your body's like pow, your hormones are raging, you got social lives, and you got all of this going on, and it just kind of seems like the 20 somethings right now are having a hard time with that. So I'm gonna do some research and find out some more about that. But I just found it interesting that that was a quote unquote supposed or alleged statistic. So when we're talking about societal expectations um, with regard to single motherhood, and you know we've not touched on the financial struggles, the economic impact. We've not talked about any of the emotional and psychological impact. um, there's just so much. It encompasses so much. The
It
impact
does.
on personal relationships, the potential has it to the children with bringing a new partner in, and that partner not really connecting with or bonding with your children, or worse, they have disdain for your children because they want you all to themselves, or that child is a constant reminder of a previous relationship. There are just so many nuances to the impact on personal relationships, the struggles within new relationships when you're dating while raising children. And you can do as much homework, background check, all of that as you can, but there's no guarantee. There's still a huge level of trust that you have to have as a single parent, not just a single mother, because women are predators too,
Right.
but to be a single parent and have to raise a child, there's this level of trust. There's a gamble that you have to be willing to take with
A
your
risk.
children.
Yeah. And
That's
so,
terrifying.
yeah, and that's why being in tune with who you are, what are you wanting out of life, what are you expecting out of a relationship with someone else, how that
Mm,
looks, and the effects it may have on your children. All of that needs to be thought through and worked through prior to going into a relationship, which we're not trained at. We're not. It's like we fall into something, and then we have to figure it out then, instead
yeah.
of that doing that pre-work, um, and really seeing who we are as an individual, what are my needs and things like that. And if it's a if I'm placing that need onto another person,
Mm.
and with expectation for them to meet, is that logical? you know and
Right.
so those type of questions we have to start asking ourselves, and that needs to be a part of the curriculum of growing up,
And
and being an adult and being a responsible citizen, in the society.
I totally agree with you. And I feel like conversations like this, because I think on some level there's not even awareness. We are just kind of in autopilot mode. We are just doing what we've always known to do. And you can't really fault someone for doing what they've always known to do unless that has not served you or has been detrimental to you, has been detrimental to your children, and you continue down that path. It really is your responsibility to go, this is not working. I need to pivot. But then where? Where do I go? What do I do? And so, part of, for those of you that are listening, why Antoine and I do this, and why adulix.com exists, and why HEALn.help exists, is because when people do have those epiphanies, they have those revelations, we want to make sure that there is some place that you can go, someone that you can go to get the support that you need to help you with the emotional and psychological impacts, your financial struggles, and get some direction with regard to that, and where you can go for support. Support even with the societal expectations and stigma, right? We can help you not define yourself based on what society thinks about you. Because, one of the things that keeps people on the path to self-destruction is helplessness, feeling like, what's the difference anyway? People are going to judge me, or I'm going to be treated this way, or what you actually believe about yourself. I'm no good
So key.
anyway, based on, you
So
know,
key. One of the things that we plan to do with Drulix.com, or Drulix, is that we want to create a learn to earn platform, and we're going to have various videos that you can watch, books that you can read, or articles that you can read, ask you a few questions, and then once you've done that, then you can receive crypto for that, right? And so you can turn that crypto into cash, or you can just buy with the crypto as well. And so, because it's so needed, the information has to get out there. And so I'm willing to invest in people so that they can invest in themselves, right? And so making it easy to, if I'm hungry, let me go watch this video, answer these questions, and know that video is all in my business, and I'm learning something, and I'm putting something on some food, getting some food for thought,
right.
in the process.
Just know I'm over here talking my head off to the mute. I'm giving you feedback, but I'm trying to lessen the puppy feedback as well. So we got a little noise in the background, but I was definitely tuned in. I know a couple of times you were like, right? I was like, yeah. Oh, he can't hear me. So I totally agree with you there. And, part of the reason that Heal and Help has the Ko-Fi page. I believe it's called Ko-Fi. I don't know that I'm saying it wrong, but I think it stands for like co-finance or co-something along that lines. But it's very similar to a Patreon. I like it because it's very robust. But that's where we have all of our resources, right? We have participation guides for the sessions that we have. We have resources for where you can go to get tapped in for every single one of the podcast episodes that we have. So coping mechanisms and resources for support, you'll always find on the Ko-Fi. So it's ko-fi.com, and that's ko-fi.com/heal and help. And of course, before or once we post this episode, it will definitely be in the description. And I'm not sure where you're housing the episodes, Antoine, but I am housing them on my YouTube page, which is HEALn Help on YouTube.
Yes,
So
mine's on YouTube as well.
Awesome. So that's where
Under Just Antoine
and
right now.
so, we put therapy information, support groups. Unfortunately, we don't do nationwide right now. We are in the Atlanta area. But if you take some of the topics, titles, businesses that we do post for the Atlanta area, and you type in whatever that business name or that organization's name is, and then put your area or put, something like this in my area, I'm sure you'll find the resources that you need for where you are, and be able to get like financial assistance or help building a support system, because some of the topics that or some of the things that I was hoping to Miss Issa has decided she wants the floor, so the more I talk, the more she barks. I apologize. But, and there is also a disparity with regard to what men believe, not all, some men, let me preface that by saying some men believe the dynamic is with regard to child support and how it's being used, and what women believe about child support and how it should be used. We could argue that down to the nitty gritty, but at the end of the day, it's not the most ideal situation for either person. And sometimes that support system, child support system, is weaponized in both directions. I've seen it happen. I've seen women haul men into court, demanding more money. And I've seen men withhold support because he can't have access to that woman. So I've seen it.
Yes, both ways.
I want child support for these puppies. Hold on.
So yeah, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up because I need to make a hard stop here in 2 minutes. So yes, we're going to be doing this. We're committed to helping and assisting you in getting through some of the trauma that you have faced, that you are facing, and some solutions for that. And so please like, subscribe, ask your questions, submit your topics that you would like for us to discuss, share the information with others, and we definitely will respond back to you, whether we can take on the topic or not, or some additional resources that you may need. If you want our assistance on that, we can also assist you on that as well. And so thanks for tuning in, and we're going to let Miss J, you have some final comments?
I did have some final thoughts, and
Okay.
they got quiet for a second, so let me just say this. Building a support system is really what helps with parenting, not just as the custodial parent, but also for the non-custodial parent. I think that with the fatherless homes, parents on both sides have some sense of helplessness in that, there's no rule book, there's no manual on how to navigate the relationship between the ex and the custodial parent, the children and the non-custodial parent, the new people that each may find themselves in relationship with, and how to navigate that. There's so much and so many nuances that go into why relationships don't work out and what happens thereafter. And
Absolutely.
the more we can provide support and love and direction, as opposed to judgment, stigma, and finger pointing, the better off our children will be, the better off our communities will be. And my hope is that, between HEALn.help and ajulix.com and those who occupy those spaces within those entities, we can offer some support. We can be there for you. We can offer you not only resources for you to be able to access for financial support, but we can be there for the coaching and support. We do one-on-one sessions. We do offer one-on-one sessions. This is not a sales pitch. I'm just letting you know that those resources are also available. We list resources that are not just our own entities. We list as many resources as we can that we feel like are actually going to provide you support. So
Yes.
I appreciate you, Antoine, for taking some time to hang out with me today and allow me to be in your space.
Well, vice versa.
And get some of that energy over here. And I would like to maybe do a part 2 where there's not so much distraction, because there was some real topics that I kind of wanted to dive into to bring awareness and to help on some level validate the custodial parent and let them know that they're not crazy in what they're feeling, even if it's not what society feels like you should present. Because if I could tell you about the mental and emotional toll that raising children can take on a parent, that is the the other stuff doesn't even scratch the surface with what you have to deal with internally, not only within your body and in your mind and in your spirit, but in your household. So I'd love to revisit this again.
Well, we're going to do this for a long time, hopefully, and get a lot of and get better at it and continue to offer, because we're on the self improvement journey ourselves, and so we're on the healing process ourselves. And so as we continue to get resources and get better at handling our own stuff, we definitely going to share that information with you. So stay tuned. We love you, and I'll see you at the top.
Right. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.